Hi, I'm Alan R. This is Motor Matters, the channel where you would usually expect to see the newest, the latest, the greatest and the best of everything we can bring you. And when it's the latest, we always strive to be one of the first in South Africa to bring you what's just been launched. Well, today's an exception. The Ford Everest, I'm sure you can see, but it's not the new one that was just launched literally this week. Unfortunately, I wasn't at that launch. But this is our farewell tribute to a retiring soldier who's fought a mighty battle for a long time against the mighty Fortuner and done incredibly well for Ford South Africa. And now it's time for it to go off to pasture because the new one has just been launched. But let's just take a look at a few little details. Of course, it's big, it's bold, it's all those things. And the new one's even bigger and bolder, just by the way, in case you want to know that fact. But what it is, as I'm sure you know, is Ford's version of a Bakkie-based 7-seater SUV. So it's built on the same platform as the Ranger. And then you've got, if we come around, the very large 7-seater SUV body. And it's got space, it's big. As I said, you open up the door here, you've got a nice substantial running board on the side, you've got a good grab handle there to get in and out, do things like that. You've got all of these features. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on them. You've got plenty space, particularly in the middle row of seats. Over there you can see driver's seat set for myself as always. You've got a 12 volt over there, but you do not have USB for the back seat. I'm sure those are in the new version. And you have even got fan control for the back, which is nice. And just, if you just pop the camera back there, and that's your access to the rearmost seats, which you can see involves a bit of a climb and fairly limited legroom in the rear. But again, I know for a fact that's been addressed with a new model. Come round to the back quickly over here, and you can see it's big, it's handsome, and typically of any 7-seater type vehicle, very limited boot space when you're running with 7 seats. Little bit of storage area under there. Of course, your spare wheels right underneath the vehicle. But what they do allow for is, if this works for me today, if you're in 5-seater mode, imagine dropping both those and look at the nice sized boot area you have then. So obviously it depends on your needs and your purposes. Now this is XLT spec that we got here right now, which is one below the top limited version. 4-wheel drive, and it's powered by Ford's 2-liter bi-turbo diesel engine, 157 kilowatts, 500 newton meters of torque. What I find particularly interesting is the fact that in the new range, and there are only 2 models in the new range, Sport and Platinum, the Sport has the exact same engine and gearbox. That 10-speed auto that Ford have been using for a while now, and really is a superb gearbox. So very interesting. It has been carried over. I think it drops 2 kilowatts, but that's nothing much. But essentially same drivetrain in the Sport version. The Platinum gets a new V6 diesel, which turbo diesel we won't even chat about now. But this one does the job very, very well. You'll see it on the road. We'll chat about the inside for a few moments now. We're on the freeway now, as I'm sure you can see. There is a lot of traffic around, so we're not going to be able to probably cruise at the 120 mark. But besides a rough piece of road that is creating a lot of tire roar, but that's the roadway, not the car, I think you can see that this Everest certainly is built to cruise all day and all day long, and it'll do that job superbly. The steering could be a tiny bit lightish almost in these circumstances, and the front touch floaty, but I'm being really, really picky about it right now. I can tell you it's very smooth, very comfortable. The 157 kilowatts out of this bi-turbo 2-litre petrol, 2-litre diesel is fantastic. 500 newtons, that 10-speed gearbox. You only actually ever feel gear shifts when you're traveling very slowly, I've noticed. When you're cruising, you don't even know what gear it's in or what it's doing. About the only thing I'll say about the gearbox that I have noticed is there is a bit of lag when you want a very quick overtake or very quick response or something like that. But again, you know what, it's getting used to the vehicle, and once you know it, you'll never have a problem whatsoever. And there's room, you know how much room there is behind me. You've got all the features. You've got Ford Sync 3, which works so well with navigation. That's what you've been hearing talking in between my talking. All I can say is that if this is the farewell to this generation, the next generation has got a lot to live up to, and even more so from what I'm hearing, reading, that the improvements are there, but let me tell you, it comes off such a good base. Well, just to tell you what happened with this test is, if you have a look right now, you can see we've done 531 kilometers, averaging 10.1 liters per 100. The instrumentation, you know, I'm not going to spend time on it. Very simple, but you've got all the functions you need. You press the buttons over there on the steering wheel. They all work very well. They're all easy, simple. I'm not going to say too much about it. It really is not important. And of course, that's for your touch screen on the other side and all your phone, etc., etc. All very simple, very easy, and they work very well. You've got features like auto-on headlights, which I like, and of course you have got cruise control as well. So there you go. You've got all of that going for you. You come across to the center stack now, and of course the new version has a massive 12-inch tablet screen. This one's got that one. I still think it worked very well, and let me tell you, the navigation worked well. It linked to Android Auto extremely easily because this is Ford's Sync 3. Now the new one has got Sync 4. I found Sync 3 to be a superb system, so I kind of wonder how much better Sync 4 can be. But anyway, it's there, it does the job, it's really nice. You've got all, this is all going to change obviously, but everything's pretty intuitive. Of course, by today's standards, a lot of buttons over here for your aircon and your whole ventilation system, which you wouldn't quite expect perhaps on a more modern car. So let's see what they come up with on the new one. Two 12 volts over there, which is interesting, and two USBs up front. Now, of course, I'm sure the system will be very similar on the new version. Over here, you'll see, just for example, that you've got your four-wheel drive low, you've got diff lock, and you've got your traction control if you want to switch it off for some 4x4 use. Over here, of course, you've got your control over here where you can just press buttons, for example, for different terrain, your terrain response, as they call it. And in the middle over there is your hill descent control. Now, I know for a fact I was on a launch of this model a while back, and I can tell you that, for example, the hill descent control you can set using the cruise control to set the exact speed that the vehicle runs at in hill descent control. Quite interesting. And I mentioned the 10-speed automatic gearbox. That is smooth, comfortable, and easy. And no side slot for example, going into manual mode, but there is a little rocker button on the driver's side over here that you can press if you put it to sport and then you want to shift manually. I really don't see the need in this vehicle, but who knows, if that's what you want and you want to do it, go for it. Well, beyond that, the new model, as I said, has grown. It's grown a bit bigger, it's grown a bit larger. So you've got more space, more comfort, more luxury, very much so, because let me tell you, this model over here, the last price I've seen for it was, I'm going to call it 800,000 Rand, 796. Well, the new one with this engine and gearbox, let's talk the sport version, comes in at 865. So there is a pretty big price increase. but there's a big increase in the vehicle itself, in the refinement from what I've been reading and the reports I've seen, and for example, overall in size, space, etc., especially, they say, for the rearmost seats, which everybody now in this next generation seems to be trying very, very hard to give you more room over there if you're going to have a 7-seat configuration. Well, farewell, a trusty steed, as you ride off into the sunset. For Motor Matters, I'm Eleanor. I'll see you next time, and hopefully it'll be in the new Everest.